from two of our elders from the Philippines. First, we will hear from Elder Orland.
Shalom. Hallelujah. It's a blessing for me to be in this podium to share the word from Yahweh. That is very important also for us to understand. And I am bringing the greetings from the Philippine brethren to you as the requested. The greet you from the Philippines. The topic that I will bring today is about head covering. How important to know it, because some people, especially in our country, in the Philippines, that is a big thing. That even believers in some secretive groups are implementing this head covering for the women. That's why the first time people came there and they asked me, Orland, are the women in the Philippines Muslims? So it's really big thing in there that we have to discuss, because in the congregation we don't have such custom. So where did the custom of women wearing head scarves come from? If we look into the Greek custom, even in their Diana statues, they have that head scarves. And it is also in the writings of Paul in 1 Corinthians, we will see that women in Greek culture wore head scarves after their pagan deities, as I mentioned earlier, Diana that they worship. One doesn't have to look much further than even in Catholic Church. Their nuns, even the Mary that they are representing, the Queen of Heaven, as they worship them, and correctly is Easter, the Easter idol. Just as to look further that it is really their culture. In 1 Corinthians 11, Paul is addressing the group of brethren that were trying to force head scarves on all the women, and clearly this is his response. In 1 Corinthians 11:16, First Corinthians 11:16. But if anyone thinks to be contentious, we do not have such a custom, nor do the congregations of Yahweh. So here we can see from Paul's response that he did not agree with women or women having to wear an additional cloth in their head or in their hair as a secondary covering. The first thing that one should ask, if women are meant to wear head scarf or head covering, then where can it be found in the Torah? None. So can Paul change the Torah and he will impose this kind of culture or custom in the New Testament? No. So Paul is a Torah keeper. He is a real follower of the Torah. So it's impossible that Paul will impose that doctrine or that culture or that custom. So what is 1 Corinthians 11 about then? I believe that what the real issue that Paul is addressing in this area of the congregations in Corinth is about, it's not about head scarves, but hair lengths. How long is the hair that is allowed in the congregations of Yahweh in that area? In the Middle Eastern Greek culture, where women were wearing these head scarves, it is also very hot. So we even experience that here. This is part also of the eastern area, Middle East. even in that same area there, that it's very hot, so since their hair here was not shown, it's covered, they have the liberty to cut it short or even shave it to have more comfort from the heat and scarf. On the other hand, many men who were also trying to imitate their Greek male deities or gods were also trying to imitate them by wearing long flowing hair, such as you see on the Jesus pictures anywhere, which is a model of Greek god, the son of Zeus. Yeah, Zeus, as you find it in the Hebraic Bible introduction. Let's get from there. This is the problem of Corinthians 11, 1 Corinthians 11. So from the Greek original manuscripts, to make it more understandable, in 1 Corinthians 11:4, this is the translation from Greek. Every man praying or prophesying, having anything down over his head, dishonors his head. The Greek word used here is Strong's number in the Greek dictionary. Number 2596, kata, and means to have anything down over the head. Paul, who is referring to a man having long hair, fully covered the head. In 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 5, this begins with the women. But every woman that prays or prophesies with her head uncovered dishonors her head, for it is the same as if she were shaven. The word here for uncovered is Strong's Greek dictionary number 177 and means to be uncovered. In other words, he is saying that if a woman has short hair, like men, not fully covering her head, that is as if she were shaven. In Scripture, the only time we see woman with short hair was when he was shamed, such as when her husband suspects her as adulteress, as we see in Numbers, the 5th chapter. In this case, the priest would shave the woman's head before he gave her the test of adultery. So in 1 Corinthians 11:6, for if a woman is not covered, let her also be short. But if it is shame for a woman to be short or shaven, maybe Paul is taking this argument from the Torah, that if it is shame for a woman to be short or shaven, let her be covered. So let her have long hair. So Paul is saying that if a woman is not fully covered, having long hair, then it is as if she is shaved. But since women are only shaved for shame, then let her be fully covered or having long hair. So the Greek word here for covering is Strong's number 2619 and means to fully cover the head. Then verses 14 to 15 in the same chapter makes Paul's case clear. So in 1 Corinthians 11, 13 to 14, Paul is saying something to them that to judge for yourself if it is fitting that a woman pray unto Yahweh uncovered. Does not even nature itself teach you that if a man has long hair, it is a shame unto him. It is a shame for a man having long hair. Jump down to verse 15, but if a woman has long hair, it is a glory for her. For her long hair is given to her instead of a veil. Some people that purports head covering use other words that they will say this inlay or as a second or as additional covering. But here it is clear that it's given to her instead of a veil, not secondary or something like it can be, but instead no need for a cloth to cover the head of the woman. The word used here for veil is Strong's number 4018, and literally means a cloth. This is the first time it's used here in this argument, that the veil is used. Wrap or veil. this is the first time that Paul, in the letter of Paul, even mentions the word veil. All other references were referred to coverings, not veils. We have a discussion here in the Philippines about 3 years ago that many people are attacking me because I take out all the veils of women in the congregation, and they have kind of debate against that thing that I have done. So they are circling this. They think that coverings are clothes. They always think because of the translation in they use Cebuano version. But when we come to this translation and some other English translation, it fails. That covering does not mean clothes. So it can mean hair of women that can cover, not veils. So most purport wearing head coverings totally mistranslate this most important scripture to say that a long hair is a given as additional covering, but this could not be further from the truth and is changing scripture. The word used for it is anti in Greek. Anti, which literally means in the place of or instead of, as anti-Messiah is in place of Messiah. So the word anti means in place of. So no need for a cloth. If you have long hair, that's your covering. Paul clearly believed and showed that the long hair is the covering, where maybe the beginning of Paul's letter was a bit confusing because he does not come out and explain the true purpose because of his writing, hair length, not veils. The latter part of the letter is very clear that as long hair is a shame to a man, that it is a glory to a woman. The contrast. If a man has long hair, it's a shame. But if a woman has long hair, it's a glory. That shows the inequality between the sexes. Men has short hair, and women should have long hair. And to the brethren that do not want to accept this teaching from Paul, he is also very clear. As we read in the beginning, in 1 Corinthians 11:16, but if anyone seems to be contentious, we have no such custom. The custom of wearing a headscarf. Neither do the congregations of Yahweh. But to be clearer, the congregations of Yahweh have no such custom of women wearing a veil or a man having long hair. We don't have that. This makes total sense, as although the Torah never commands a woman to wear a veil, it does say that a man is not to dress or look like a woman, and neither should a woman or women dress or look like a man. So when men have short hair and men have long hair, they're going against the spirit of this Torah. The principle of Torah is man cannot take the garments or what women wear, and vice versa. They should not mess around with those garments that they have. If 1 Corinthians 11 is speaking about hair lengths and not wearing clothes drops, then what about the men in the assembly? Well, in the 1 Corinthians 11:14, just also clearly showed us that a man should not be allowed in our assemblies with long hair, as it was given to women and would be out of judicial order. That's why in the feast protocol, before we enter here, we have that protocol that men should have neat and short hair. The next question that may arise is that about a man who had a Nazarite vow, like many other people that have Nazarite vows. Well, first of all, most people who had a Nazarite vow kept it no longer than 30 to 100 days. Why? Because someone with long hair was not allowed to enter the temple or sanctuary of Yahweh. As a matter of fact, from Numbers chapter 6 tells us that when the vow was completed, the person had to shave his hair at the steps of the sanctuary in order to be able to enter to do his sacrifice. We see Paul is doing this Nazarite vow too. Numbers 6:13 And drop down to verse 18. It is the law of the Nazarite vow. This is the law of the Nazarite. When the days of his separation are fulfilled, bring him into the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And the Nazarite shall shave the head of his separation at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and shall take the hair of the head of his separation, and shall put it on the fire which is under the sacrifice of the peace offering. So clearly this shows that why Moses only had a Nazarite vow for a short period of time, except if it were someone like Samson. Samson is a lifetime Nazarite. Also John the Baptist, he was a lifetime Nazarite. And who was told to keep the vow for life, and as the person could never enter Yahweh's sanctuary if he had long hair. And now, somebody will say that Yeshua has long hair, and then he is in the temple. That's against the Torah. So it just shows us that Yeshua has clean cut hair, clean short hair. I was wondering why, if they are portraying Yeshua as like this Greek pagan deity, Zeus, Jesus, so he cannot be teaching in the sanctuary of Yahweh, the temple. Also in the millennium sanctuary, the priests are commanded not to have long hair to serve, but to have their hair short and neat. You can see this in Ezekiel 44 verse 20. And they shall not shave their heads, and they shall not send forth long hair. Not shaving their head, like we call it calvo, but not also having it long. But trimming, ye shall trim their heads. What does Scripture say about a man wearing kippah? You can see all around it has this. You can even distinguish which is which. Except if we can see tzitzit in their garments. So they have this similar tradition or skull cap or kippah. So where did these Jews have taken this tradition? And what does the Scripture say about this? In 1 Corinthians 11:4, everyone praying or prophesying, having anything down under his head, dishonor his head. So it's a dishonor for a man who have kippah in his head. Clear Scripture tells us that what was made in the image of Yahweh, and it should be dishonoring him to wear anything on our head during our service. Also, the Jewish kippur comes from the false deity or god, Hermes. The cup of Hermes, as you can search in Google, they are wearing the same thing. The cup of Hermes, which is totally pagan sun worship. It was instituted during the reign of the evil priest Jason, who was a Hellenizer and trying to please the Greeks by forming the Greek pagan customs of the Jewish nation. Look at what the historical book of Maccabees says about the Jewish before in its origin. 2 Maccabees, the 4th chapter. You don't have that in your Bible. Only King James and the White version or something. Catholic Bibles. Because this is still all the historical records that we get from. Verse 7, but after the death of Seleucus, when Antiochus called Epiphanes took the kingdom, Jason, the brother of Onias, worked deceitfully to the high priest. Jump down to verse 9 until verse 18. Besides this, he promised to assign 150 more talents of silver if he might have permission to set up a gymnasium for training up the youth in the fashion of the gymnasium is naked people. It means this where Olympics came from. It's good today because it's not really naked, all naked, but half naked, playing in the Olympics, right? Which when the king had granted and he had gotten into his hand the rule, he, Jason, continued in all things to bring his own nation to the Greek fashion. That's why we'll hear Hellenized. That is where it came from. And the real privileges, verse 11, granted special favor to the Jews by means of John, the father of Eupolimos, who went as an ambassador to Rome for amity and aid, that was taken away, and he also put down the governments that were set up according to Torah, and he brought up new customs of the pagans that were against the Torah. For he gladly built a place of exercise, gymnasium, under the tower itself, and brought even the most noble young men under his subjection, and made them even wear the Greek sun cap. This one, the Greek sun cap. Now, such was the height of the Greek fashion and the increase of Hellenist manners through the exceeding profanes of Jason, that ungodly rich and no high priest. That many priests had no courage to serve anymore at the altar, but despising the temple and neglecting the sacrifices, hastened to be partakers of the unlawful allowance in the gymnasium after the game of the Greek god Discus, called therefore Discus through in the Olympics. Not setting the honors of their fathers, but liking the glory of the Grecians best of all. For what reason? Great calamity came upon them, and they were still their enemies and avengers, even though they followed their customs so diligently, and they desired to be like them in all things. Now when the game that was used every 5th year was kept at Tyros, the king being present, this ungracious Jason sent special messengers from Jerusalem who were Antiochians to carry 300 drachmas of silver to sacrifice to Hercules. So this is where they get this tradition. That's why when they ask them where in the Torah that they are commanded to wear that, they cannot answer, but merely tradition. So tradition is totally out if we want to follow the Torah of Yahweh. Clearly, if we as men are created in the image of Yahweh, then we should not cover our heads in the assembly. And most of all, we should not wear a pagan keeper that is fashioned after the sun. In the Philippines, we have the culture that if we go to some offices, dignified offices, that we will take out our hats for respect for who is sitting in the office. It's in the same manner. It's like, I don't know where we get that culture, but it's kind of it coincides with what we should also do in the congregation. We can wear caps outside, but we cannot wear it inside during services. You can see many keepers in ancient Greek and Roman statues to their false deities, false gods, as it is supposed to give a power for special knowledge. Interesting enough, even the Pope wears pagan symbol, the bishops. The scripture is clear on this matter that women do not need a cloth wrap on their head, but their long hair is their covering, and men don't need a pagan keeper, but should have short knit hair in the assembly to give honor to Yahweh in whose image we are created. So I hope we gain insights from this one, that in the congregation, women should wear long hair and men short hair. No headscarves whatsoever. Women should not wear headscarves and men should not wear kippah. Yeah, bless everyone.
Thank you, Orland. One other point on that, like I said, sometimes when you look at the scripture, it's those little things you look at, right? Like Yeshua. Whenever you see a picture of Yeshua, which we shouldn't have pictures anyway, it's idolatry. We know when Yahweh appeared in Mount Sinai, right? He appeared and they said they heard his voice, but they saw no image. Because Yahweh knows if you see an image, you're going to start making something out of it. So with Yeshua, the images we see today of this Greek God-type long-haired person, or the Catholic image of hanging on a crucifixion cross, that comes much later. That comes from 4th century on. And how do we know Yeshua didn't have long hair? Well, you saw statues today, right? Many, many statues. So we know what hair lengths were in the days of Yeshua. And remember, when Yeshua is in the Garden of Gethsemane, right? He's there with the 11 apostles, and Judas has to give a sign so they know which one is Yeshua. So why would they have to give a sign? If 10 of the apostles had short hair and Yeshua had long hair, he would have basically said, just get the guy with the long hair, that's him. But the fact that they all looked the same, even Isaiah 53 says there was nothing different about him. It wasn't his look that looked any different than any other Jew. So Yeshua, if you saw him on the street, there was nothing that made him look different. He didn't have long hair, he was an average looking Jewish person, but it was his character that stood out that way. Alrighty, now we are blessed to have special music, and Nubu will give the special music.